Okay, let's see. It is September 12th of 2023, and it's 2:30 a.m. in the morning. I think I mentioned, I did, I think I made a video on it. Yeah, there it is over here, you can see right here. About the U.S. Post Office having a thing about informed delivery. I'm still apparently not signed up for it. I think the latest thing is they send something through the mail, actually through the mail, to the address that you are, that you have set up with them. And I guess there's a code on that, and then you log in to the U.S. Post Office site and then enter that code, and then I guess they will know. Well, I haven't received my code number yet. Somebody actually left who works at the post office, left a comment. I think I marked it. Well, I think there's only a couple comments there, probably. I think I marked it where it was moved to number 1 on the. I think I did. I usually do that if it's something I think that needs to be there. And he said that people are expecting. Oh, he was talking about the information that you get once you're already signed up for it. That you get if you go there and look, you'll see. Okay, this is my mail that's coming. And he was mentioning, no, this is it's not in your mailbox yet. It's at the station or whatever they call their places. I actually was an employee for about 6 weeks of and I was I took the civil service test and passed. And I was a civil service employee. And after about 6 weeks, of course this was a long time ago, and I quit. And people there couldn't believe it. But he says that people are, checking online with this informed delivery for that, and then they're getting upset and demanding to know where they're, how come I didn't get my mail? And he says it takes a while to get there. I think he said, I might be wrong on that, they can take 7 to 15 days or something like that before it's going to show up. So with this hot weather that we've had here in Texas and a lot of other places, and with I've got a lot of medical problems now. I would like to be able to look in the mail, and I'm expecting, by the way, 3 prescriptions coming through the mail. And so my son has been going to. I went a couple of times to. I really I need those medicines. Now I deal with Walgreens, and they get it ready really quick. I mean, once the things, they get it ready really quick, and you can go down and you can pick it up. But it's about 2 blocks from me, and sometimes I can't make it 2 blocks there. So I have it set up, but then they're also, and their software is not very good. Their service used to be good. Well, their service is good. The people there and that are there, but the getting it to you, by being sent to you or whatever, they've experimented with a number of different ways, and so I've got 3 prescriptions that are coming from someplace else that apparently they have not much to do with. It's handed over to something, and it comes that way. And on their site, it doesn't even show that I've got them on the way because it's coming from, so. But even, after that, then I realized, whoops, I'm out of, what was it, Flomax, except it's not called Flomax. It's called something else for the prostate. And I realized, whoops, I'm out of that. And so I logged in and clicked that I needed it, and it was, available like the next day or whatever. And I got my son to walk down there and pick it up for me. So, and now the mailing thing that they'll do, the service, if you want it like mailed to you, I forget what the numbers are, but it's expensive. Next day if you want it mailed to you, or not mailed, delivered to you. I forget what it is. I'm probably wrong on this. $15 or something. If you want it second day or whatever, it's like $8 or whatever. And then I think after that, it's free, no charge. They will have it sent to you, have it delivered to you. So anyway, so that takes care of that UPM. I'm waiting for that. Anyway, I quit the U.S. Post Office. Now, I'd worked when I was in high school, during Christmas time. I worked on the midnight shift, I think it was, 2 different years. And they hired a lot of people to do that, to get the mail, because this was, and I don't think anybody was working, I don't know, at these, like a local branch, whatever. This was like in Kansas City, Missouri, at the main post office where, mail gets sent there and then sorted, and I don't remember I don't even remember what I did the 2 Christmases that I worked there, but when I hired in, our group of 200, they hired in 200, and the next 2 weeks later they hired in 200 more, and then the next week they hired in 200 more, and then I quit. But we were sorting, and I don't know where the next group that came in, 200, maybe they were assigned to, I don't know, sort mail for New York City or something, I don't know, but we were doing California. And I forget what the number was, but we had when you started your training, you had a box with slots in it, and it'd be, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Anaheim, and that kind of stuff, and so there were a certain number of those, and those post offices, all the mail that came in, went to one of those boxes, and I'll just make this up, like if somebody else was doing it someplace. I was Kansas City, Missouri, but I lived there. So say, in New York City or something, people who were sorting mail for Kansas City to go to this same place, that I worked. If you were sorting mail to go there, you'd be sorting it for, Kansas City, Missouri. Well, would it take Kansas? Because, right, there's a dividing line. I'm not sure. Wait a minute. It would be, Kansas City, Missouri, St. Louis, and then other major places. So you had to know, when you were doing your training, and you had to know where does the mail go that's going to Kansas City for, Raymore, or going to Grandview, or going for Prairie Village. Well, that'd be in Kansas. So, you had to, that's what you had to know. And now the reason I quit was I was making good money as a welder. Also, for the post office, I took the, test civil service test. And I took it, and then I was I'm not sure if I was informed that I would be, but what was happening, same thing, not as bad as it is now, but the political situation was that especially the Republicans, did not want anybody hired for any government jobs. They didn't want anybody for, not just for the post office, but for other jobs. Any job that was government, they didn't want people hired. So there was a freeze on, so I passed the civil service test and was to be going to the post office. And then they announced that there was a freeze on hiring of, the Republicans especially. No federal government employees. We got to hold down stop the government, bureaucracy, that type of stuff. Later on, I took the test for Federal Protective Officer. That's when there were bombings and problems with federal buildings. And so the government had contract security working at federal buildings, but they needed their own federal protection officers, better qualified, higher trained, and this type of stuff. I took that civil service test and I passed that. And there was immediate, they hired some in, but then I took the test or whatever, and there was a freeze on that. And I think that was, again, 2 or 3 years. I was contacted like a couple years later, and I think that's when, no, I was contacted one time. So, and that was like 3 years later, I was contacted and I was told that there was an opening at Des Moines, Iowa. Would I be willing to move from Kansas City, Missouri to Des Moines, Iowa? And there was one opening, and they were going to send our applications or whatever to Des Moines, Iowa for 3 of us that had passed the thing. And I asked the wife, do you want us to shall we take the chance? Do we want to go there? Because 1 out of 3, I figure we might get it. And she said yes. And so I went ahead and filled out yes. And then I heard back that I had not been selected. And then so, I don't know, like a year later or something like that, I don't think they sent me then a thing saying, do you want to go someplace? I would have remembered that. I think they sent like a year later saying, do you want us to retain you on the list to be calling you or contacting you? And I said no. And because also I was working at that time, I can't remember if I was working as a welder building trucks or if I was working in a hospital. I can't remember. But they did the same thing, put a freeze on it. And I said no. So now what they did, the best part, this shows you how government works. Federal buildings were being blown up. There were attacks at federal buildings, happening. And so they needed, to hire in. They created a federal protective officer, thing. And problem stopped. Just went away. So many years later, I had forgotten all about it and everything. And then on the Kansas City newspaper, of course it was a nationwide thing, the federal government was doing away with federal protective officers. And because there was no terrorism taking place at federal buildings. And I was like, oh my God, stupidity of the government. And yeah, I mean, you had problems, and then you went with federal protective officers, the problems went away. Now, I wish that I had maybe actually got hired in, because what they did is the federal protective officers that they had, they went back to using contract security for the federal buildings, company Burns, Pinkerton, Wells Fargo, you name it, would go, and the federal government would say, well, okay, let's say Pinkerton. Okay, well, here's how much we will pay per hour to the company, to Pinkerton. And you have, and actually it was a good deal for those contract guards also, because it was a government contract. The government said, of that money that we give you, 75, I don't know what that exact number was, 75% has to go to employees, to the guards. And so that was a good deal for those people. Where for Burns, Pinkerton, Wells Fargo, and those other companies, when they were for a factory or a shopping mall or whatever, you would probably get the minimum wage, maybe plus 10%. It was a minimum wage, I think. I worked hospital security full time, and then I worked for a long time, for years. Saved for one entire year, working at Pinkerton 2 days a week. And I was, well, they had already raised, anyway, what I was going to say was, Pinkerton paid the minimum wage. Well, there was something that you had to, it wasn't uniform, they supplied the unit, there was something, somebody appealed to the government wage and hour people, whatever that is, and so Pinkerton had to pay all of the people who were working for them, who were getting the minimum wage, had to pay them X amount of money. I think it was like 10 cents per, whatever it was. And so they got a check. So then all the agencies made sure that they paid you more than the minimum wage, But, now so for the federal protective officers who were hired and went and worked in the federal buildings, but then when they decided, well, we don't need federal protective, they didn't fire them, of course. What they did, and I think I would have liked that if I'd have stuck around. Although I really couldn't afford it, depending where I was working. When I was working for the Dart truck company and making these trucks, and these were big trucks, really, really big trucks, but not as big. We made much bigger trucks than those. When I was working there, I was making damn good money. Union job, United Auto Workers Union. But it would have been nice to, those federal protective officers who had been, like in a federal building, who had to sit in the lobby and check everybody for ID when they came in, or like in the federal building at Kansas City, Missouri, they had, at some time they'd put detectors on the windows, in case the windows were broke or something, it would sound. And I have a feeling they didn't spend the kind of money that they should have, because I was going to community college, and I was the only one going to community college, by the way, that I know of, and I paid for taking the classes. But police officers, because of the federal, and I forget what agency it was, they were paid for going, their school expenses were paid. And same with the federal protective officers. the ones that there was a group of them at when I went to Longview Community College. I went to Johnson County Community College too. Or was it Johnson County? No, Jackson County. I can't remember. Penn Valley, that was it. Anyway, I was paying. I was like in the class, it'd all be federal protective officers or police officers or something like that, and all their stuff was paid for, and I was paying. But the federal protective officers, I knew by then, they became supervisors, and they drove federal police cars with lights and sirens and the whole bit. Although I don't think the federal government wanted them to be, unless they had to. I mean, because I saw, by the way, just a year or so back, for the first time, I saw one of these on YouTube car chases that you see, where, that kind of stuff. And then I saw from a car chase that originated at a federal building. And then I saw the car, which I recognized, that's a federal protective officer. And I thought, oh shit. I don't know whoever was being chased, I don't know what they did, but I don't think the federal government wanted. So there was a whole bunch of other, highway patrol, county, and all that kind of stuff in there. And then I actually, at news media, it was recorded, of course, And then the thing came out, this started with a federal protective officer, federal protective officer. And he's been called off the chase, and now the city is doing it or whatever. And I thought, yeah, somebody saw what was going on and said, get him back to the federal property, whatever. I mean, they had full police power, and they could also handle things that some people couldn't handle, like a city police officer or a county, like a federal thing. But anyway, I would have liked that, patrolling and doing that kind of what they were doing, probably. But anyway, okay, what I wanted to, how long have I been talking here? Okay, 22 minutes. I'm going to try to make this short. Okay. Nope, this isn't it. Here it is. Okay, this guy makes excellent reviews and reports on things. He does a fantastic job. And there's a whole bunch of things that I have mentioned or whatever, and I a lot of times put a link to his place or to his site, YouTube site, because he does fantastic work. Of course, he has he has employees, he has a staff to help him, and but he's talking about something here that has come up. That they've been notified, he's been notified, and other smaller YouTube sites have been notified that they are X amount of their people, that the traffic that they're getting is, I'll put a link to the thing, that it's invalid traffic. And then I think he pretty much summarizes what it actually is happening. But, and he says that he and a few of these other people, they're losing about 25% of what they make. And some of them more, because he is diversified. And, but some of these others, they're losing half or, or more of their YouTube money coming in. And so, but I'll put a link to that guy's site. And I think he's correct too. He talks about TikTok, and I remember, and I knew, that when TikTok was taking off and people were talking about TikTok, where you get short videos. And then YouTube decided, ooh, we got to get in on that. And I think that's part of the problem. And he explains why he thinks it's part of the problem. And I'm not making any money from, but there are videos, I guess. Well, I have a friend, and he mentioned to me in an email, he says, you know, YouTube is adding a lot more commercials, and he says even an increase in commercials on your videos. I didn't know they were actually putting any, you know, advertisements on my site, because I pay whatever it is, $20 a month, and I forget what it's called. I pay to YouTube, YouTube Prime or YouTube, whatever it is. They take it out automatically. And actually, if you want to help in a way, what they do is, with this that they started, is if you pay, and I think it's $20, I don't know, it might be $15. Let's say $20. I pay $20 every month. And that money goes to YouTube. And now YouTube, which when I heard this, well, what YouTube does is, for me, is I don't see any commercials. I don't see any commercials because I'm paying this $20 a month. And then I also think there's access to some music and some other things that they toss in, which I don't use. Now what they do is that $20 per month that comes in from the people that do that is it goes to YouTube, and 80% of it goes into YouTube's pocket. And I find it hard to believe that they need that, you know, that money. So the other, and I may be off a little bit on the percentage, so there's 20% left. And what they do then is they divide that up. Now, of course, they don't divide it up equally, like this guy here on the screen. Yeah. He has a lot of people going. I go there often to check out stuff. So he's getting out of that. They don't take and divide it up equally. They don't say, you know, I don't get like, let's say it's 100, you know, it's more than 100, you know, people. Of course, let's make it easy, you know. Say it's 100 people. So I don't get 1/100th, you know, of it. And he doesn't get, you know, 1/100th of it. It's divided up according to how much traffic, you know, so he gets more, and these other people who have more traffic, they get more, and then it gets, you know, chopped up. So I can't remember the last time it would be from YouTube, wouldn't it? Yeah. I can't remember the last time I got some. Maybe I did, but not much. Insignificant. So, but if you do want to help like YouTubers, although it bothers me about YouTube taking like 80% of that money, why couldn't they take 20% of it and then take the 80% and have that divided up among YouTubers to help the YouTubers? I think that's the way it should be done. But, and then there was something else that fairly recently happened, that YouTube takes money, and it seems like it should kind of go the other way, you know. So, what else? Okay. Not sure if you can hear my son. He's been sleeping for hours. It's almost 3 a.m. in the morning, and he's got his computer going playing music, and he's just sleeping through it. I do have my door closed, and I do think this microphone helps helps a little bit. Okay, this has been a 30-minute video, and I thank you very much for watching. I'm going to I don't think I'm going to upload it right now, I don't think. Maybe I will, I don't know. I need to go to bed, take a nap. So, thanks very much for watching. I think I forgot to tell you something, but... oh, yeah, if you want to help YouTubers, if they've got a link, like I do below, to Amazon, please use that. Even if you're, please make, put it on in your browser up someplace, or put it on your desktop, a thing, and click on that and go there using like my link. And then if you go there and you buy something, it doesn't matter if if it's a link to something, this microphone or anything, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's an actual link to something, you don't have to buy that item. If you go there and you've used the link, and you go and buy a washing machine or a dryer or a big screen TV or whatever it is, I would get a commission. And it doesn't cost you anything. So if you can, please try to use those links below. It's interesting. I've got about almost, I think I have a little bit over 3,500 subscribers, and almost nobody is using, almost nobody's using the link because I'm not getting anything, So in the beginning, like years ago, I thought, because in the beginning there was a thing of, with the internet, before the World Wide Web, and even when the World Wide Web came around, it was like people didn't want to click on anything. The internet was free. It was free, and there was a sort of a thing, but things have changed, And so I think most of you are new people and weren't around when that was the feeling. For years and years, I had a WordPress thing, which a lot of people went to. And, in addition to the other things I was doing. But nobody clicked on the links. And there were links, along the side. There'd be little tiny links to things that I thought people, might like, and then I would get a commission. And nobody clicked on those links down the side. And one thing I figured out myself was, like, I had that thing for years. Well, I changed, made changes to it, did all kinds of stuff. I enjoyed doing it. It was fun, actually. But, like, I remember one time, it was more than one time, but somebody said, "Oh, Jim, by the way, that link you have on the side there, did you know you misspelled whatever, let's say the word, let's say it was camera. And did you know you misspelled camera?" And I said, "Oh, no." And I looked, and yeah, I'd misspelled it. So I'd been looking at this thing all day long, because I was working on the system. And I just never noticed it. It just, I was expecting to see the word camera or whatever. And I think that was something that kind of told me people just tune that out. Or else I think other people would have said, "Oh, you misspelled such and such." So I think that's part of it. Anyway, please click on the links if you can, Please subscribe. Thank you very much for watching and listening.